Hey, welcome back. Today, we've got a story that, honestly, sounds completely made up. We're going to talk about how a major airline, stuck on the ground during the pandemic, somehow managed to grow its digital business in the middle of all that chaos.
I mean, just think back to that time for a second. The airports were like ghost towns, all the planes were parked, the entire world just stopped. And for the airline industry, it was nothing short of a catastrophe.
It just doesn't make sense, right? If nobody is flying, how on earth could an airline's online sales actually go up? Well, that is the paradox we are here to unravel today.
So, to get to the bottom of this, we're diving into a fascinating study out of Indonesia. Researchers there decided to investigate their country's biggest airline, thinking the data might tell a story that nobody was expecting.
And you can't overstate how bad things were. The research paper put it perfectly. You had this combination of super low demand, but still incredibly high costs for the airlines, with basically no money coming in. I mean, this wasn't just a bump in the road. It was a genuine threat to their existence.
But here's the twist. To understand how this airline survived the pandemic, we actually have to rewind. The real secret isn't in 2020 at all. The clues were hiding in plain sight, in the data from the years before the crisis ever hit.
The research team zoomed in on 3 specific things from the airline's annual reports. They had a hunch that these numbers could tell the story of the company's digital health way before anyone was even talking about COVID-19.
And here they are, the 3 magic ingredients. How much they were spending on IT, how many passengers were booking online, and how much money those online bookings were bringing in. These 3 variables became the building blocks for everything that followed. And just take a look at the e-commerce revenue alone. You can see this beautiful, steady climb from $400 million in 2013 all the way up to $700 million by 2018. This is proof right here that the airline was already building a really solid digital foundation. They weren't scrambling to figure things out when the crisis hit. They were already well on their way.
Okay, so we've established they had this strong growth before the pandemic, but how could you possibly predict what would happen during a once-in-a-century crisis? For that, the researchers needed a really powerful tool.
They used something called a neural network. Now, I know that sounds super technical, but just think of it like a really smart weather forecast, but for a business. It looks at all the complicated patterns in the past data to make a surprisingly accurate guess about what's going to happen in the future. And the way they did it was actually pretty straightforward. Step 1, they gathered all that historical data we just talked about. Step 2, they fed all of it into the neural network and let the machine learn all the patterns. And then, for step 3, they just asked the model to spit out a forecast for the coming years, including right through the pandemic.
And this right here is where the story gets really good. The predictions that came out of that model were just wild. They went against everything you would logically expect to see during a global shutdown.
First up, let's look at IT spending. The model predicted that between 2016 and 2022, the airline's investment in its technology would explode by over 218%. So even in a crisis, the data showed that tech was going to be their top priority. Okay, next up, e-commerce passengers. You'd think this would go to 0, right? Nope. The model predicted that the number of people booking flights online would still grow by more than 70% during that same time.
And now for the real kicker. E-commerce revenue. The model predicted it would grow by over 101%. Let that sink in. Their digital sales were on track to more than double, right through the worst of the pandemic.
Now, when you look at the whole forecast, you get the complete story. And yeah, you can see the pandemic's punch. Look at that dip in passengers in 2020 and revenue in 2021. But that's not the main point. The main point is the overall direction. That predicted rebound in 2022 is just massive. It shows that the airline's digital engine was strong enough to power right through the crisis and come out stronger. And hey, don't just take my word for it. The researchers themselves pointed this out. They concluded that even though, the pandemic hammered the industry, the data showed a clear path back to major growth by 2022, all fueled by that digital momentum. So, let's zoom out. What does this incredible turnaround story really teach us? I mean, why should we care about this one case study of an airline in Indonesia? Well, it really boils down to 4 big lessons. First, having a strong digital game before a crisis hits is what helps you survive it. Second, constantly investing in your tech isn't just an expense, it's how you build a business that can take a punch.
Third, e-commerce can be an absolute lifeline to get you back on your feet. And finally, data forecasting tools can show us optimistic paths forward that, our own gut feelings might totally miss.
In the end, this isn't really a story about just one airline. It's a powerful example of how going all in on technology can make a business shockingly resilient. And it leaves us all with a much bigger question to think about. If data and digital tools can help solve a paradox like this, what other impossible problems are they ready to help us tackle next?